This is Euphorbia tirucalli, also known as Firesticks, sticks on fire, or a red pencil tree. This plant is a pretty good size, and I did want to show you something interesting. You can see that it has some pretty good coloration. If you look at it from this side, as I turn it, you'll see a lot more green and yellow, and that's because this is the side that I have had facing the full hot sun. And so it's pretty common for this euphorbia to kind of fade to like a yellowish or a greenish color during the summer months, and then it takes on this brighter red color in the winter time. And of course it has, obviously you can see it has better color if you keep it in full sun. Then it will take on a lot brighter red coloration. And even though it is a pretty big plant, this is certainly not as big as it can get. Some cultivars can grow all the way up to 25 feet tall by 8 feet by 10 feet wide, which is absolutely massive. But a lot of cultivars are a lot smaller than that, maxing out at like somewhere between 6 to 8 feet tall, and probably about that wide as well. Just like most, or maybe even all Euphorbias, Altman Plants website states that all Euphorbias have white sap in them that can be really, really dangerous. In some people, it just causes like a mild irritation, like a rash or a discomfort, but for some people it can be really serious, like burns. And so I think it's probably safe to say any euphorbia that you have in your home, you should keep your pets away from it, your little children away from it. And even if you are not sure like what your personal reaction would be to it, maybe it would be safer to use gloves when you're handling it. And of course, always wash your hands, because you definitely do not want to risk getting it in your eyes. Like most succulents, this euphorbia is not tolerant at all of freezing temperatures. So it's definitely not zoned to be planted outside anywhere other than like zones 9, 10, 11, things like that. And it is pretty sensitive to overwatering, but this euphorbia in particular is also sensitive to drought. So if there are long periods where this one goes without water, it will really suffer from that as well, just as badly as it will from overwatering. One of the ways that we can tell the difference between a cactus and a non-cactus succulent plant is thorns versus spines. So what we're looking at here is a Euphorbia lactea. A lot of people call this good luck plant. It's believed that it's called that because no one can kill it, it's good luck. Or some people even say that it's called that because it has the color green on it, and that means that you're going to bring good fortune just by having it. I don't know. I couldn't find any exact research about that. So anyway, if we look closely, these are considered thorns because they grow straight out from the plant body and not from a separate growth, a little rounded area that cacti produce to send their spines out from, which is the difference between thorns and spines as far as I can find in my research. This plant can grow 3 feet wide and 6 feet tall, not if it's in a pot like mine is. But in nature, it is capable of that. Although this is only zoned for 10 or 11, so really anything lower number than that, it just gets too much cold. And this can't even take all the way down to 40 degrees is literally the lowest that it can go. These plants are very susceptible to frost and cold damage, even just a little bit, a few hours of it, and it will probably kill the plant. Right next to him is Bones. I'm going to actually pull him out, hopefully without getting thorns in my arm or my fingers. There he is. Bones is the variegated version of this guy. So he is also Euphorbia lactea, or lactea, but it's lactea variegata. And it's not always called Bones. Some places call it Ghost. But it has those same thorns, not spines, growing out. And has the same basic shape that are kind of like candles, and then just grow out from each other in a branching kind of a style. And the variegata, of course, is because it's variegated. These are mostly white. And really lovely. They are very susceptible to sunburn, so you do have to be careful with that. But the same basic rules of thumb as this one. It has the milky white sap in the center. It can be agitating or even dangerous if you come in contact with it. And again, that varies from person to person or from animal to animal. It's just all in how your skin kind of reacts to that sap. So it's best just not to risk it. Both of these plants appreciate a little bit of a rest in the winter. In other words, they want to have watering less frequently. Maybe taking it down to like 1 time a month, just making sure that the roots aren't going to completely die off with just a little sprinkling of water, enough to get it through the winter time. But I guess the #1 killer of these plants is overwatering, especially during the winter months. This pretty little thing is Euphorbia polygona, and the cultivar is Snowflake. I think this really looks similar to a cactus. I mean, mostly because of its shape. Certainly not because of its color. That odd kind of chalky white color is why its cultivar is named Snowflake. And these small little spiky things are apparently called peduncles. I don't know. That's a new one for me. Anyway, something cool that I read on Altman Plants claims that there was only one snowflake Euphorbia polygona found in Africa. And if that's true, then that means any one of us who owns one of these has an offspring from that plant. Here's another pretty one that is, to me, looks very cactus-like, but of course is not. This is Tanzanian zipper plant, and also Euphorbia, and obviously makes lots of offsets very, very easily. This one can grow to about 12 inches tall and can actually get twice as wide, probably because of all these pretty little offsets that it makes pretty easily. And it's called zipper plant just because these margins, these patterns on the margins just make it kind of look like it's a zipper. It's a really nice one. I like this plant a lot. And just like Snowflake, the Euphorbia polygona Snowflake, this plant has burgundy colored flowers that'll happen kind of up along the top, or really anywhere along the margin of the plant. And this is another way that we can definitely distinguish cacti from Euphorbias, because we know that cacti flowers are highly sought after. They're absolutely stunningly beautiful. Flowers on Euphorbia, for the most part, are not. They're not showy at all. They're very small, and they'll be like a burgundy color on this plant and on the Euphorbia polygona. I've saved my favorite Euphorbia for last, and this is my favorite Euphorbia in my own collection and of all of the Euphorbias that I know of. That doesn't mean that there isn't another one out there that I might love more, but as far as I've ever seen, this is my favorite. It's so cool. This is Euphorbia inermis, also called green crown, which you can see why, or Medusa's head, which I like both of those names. I think they're super cool. Just like the plant This is just like all the other Euphorbias, has to stay super warm. So zones 9 through 11, definitely not something I can plant outside. I can only take it outside here in Ohio during our late spring, summer, and early fall, until we start getting down near the 40s, which these guys don't like anything 40 degrees and below. I'm really looking forward to when this plant blooms, because apparently each of these little fingers will be covered with little white or yellow blooms. And this is one that you have to really keep track of for repotting, because it has a taproot, and so it will need to have a bigger pot. Probably just, I mean, really similar to every other plant. I always check about every 2 years. This one I will probably check every year and just see how things are looking in there in the root ball, and if it needs a little bit more room.